All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to a new week, post NFL Draft edition of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much, as always, for watching, for listening, and thank you especially over this past week. These last 4 days, quite literally, have been the busiest 4 days that we've had ever in over 7 years of Talking Buffalo. So I thank you very, very much for that. I also want to shout out today's sponsor, Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road, just down the way from Highmark Stadium. Make sure if you're in town, you go and check out Sunny Reds. All right. Video side, of course, we are live 9 p.m.-ish Sunday night. Audio podcast. This will drop overnight in the Monday morning. I said if you happen to be in town, stop up, Sunny Reds. Joe from Queens is with me. Joe was in town last week. We hooked up at Resurgence Brewery, did a live podcast very late following round one on Thursday night. Joe's back in Queens. What's going on, man? How you doing, dude? What's up?
Hey, living the dream, and congrats on having a busy week. The content would be something I would never listen to, but hey, I'm glad people did. So, and yeah, good for you, buddy. And I was a part of that. This is the third podcast we've done in a week now. So
yeah.
You owe me some money, buddy. Don't think I'm fucking not going to forget that.
All right, on the video side, we got the weekly tradition of Joe pouring out his opening beer. Got to tell you a couple funny stories involving our live crowd, which there's already some filing in here, but
yeah. Let's talk about my beer, which I think is very. I showed this off last week on the video side. So the Broken Skull 316 IPA, it's very good. The can rocks. Look, it's got like 316 right there. I'm digging it. It's a good. It's a sweet can. My brother-in-law got these for me, and I'm very happy. Oh yeah, I'm working on my my UD. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Ralph. I'm really on that right now. Who do we sign? Which Buffalo guy that Pat's gonna blow smoke up his ass and be like, I'm friends with him, and he's gonna post a selfie of him from like freaking Sunny Reds from 5 years ago. Who's it gonna be this time around?
Yeah, what's up? I'll tell you, man. So we're going to get into today. And now that the draft is over, okay, I'm trying not to laugh because this is kind of on a serious tone. The draft is over. Unrestricted free agency is not over, but the meat and potatoes of it is certainly over. The Bills have went nuts investing in the defense. And this defense damn sure better be vastly improved over a year or so ago. That's going to be the primary focus of what we talk about today as well. Before that, though, I got to tell you this. So night two, so you did night one with me at Resurgence Brewery, and this is kind of involving the live chat that we're around for all these shows over the last handful of days. Night two, I was back here in my home studio, and I did a show with Mike Bunt from Trainwreck Sports, and
who has me blocked, by the way.
He has you blocked. He has you blocked.
He has me blocked. I don't know why. I never engaged.
Well, I can tell you this, man. Your celebrity is definitely grown on this show because people were really shitting on him, and he maybe too optimistic. I don't know. There were the fans were very salty with the Buffalo Bills after night two of the draft, and I think largely that's because they traded up for a defensive tackle who is perceived to be more like Ed Oliver than Daquan Jones, and they're calling him a backup defensive tackle. Anyway, people didn't like the pick. Let's just put it that way. They did not like Mike's tone. It felt very homeristic to them, and they sure as shit let them know. I felt bad. Appreciate the dude coming on the show, so don't get me wrong, but they were shitting on him. Where's Joe from Queens? This and that. Not very happy with my guess for that night. I guess it was a little too positive for them. So
you probably were happy with. Well, I mean, we'll get to it. You were probably happy after night two, right?
After night two,
yeah.
Yeah. It depends. It depends, and we will get to it. It depends. I think. Look, when you have a live reaction show, and we had a live reaction show all 3 points. I had you with me for night one, and Mike Hunt with me night two, and then day 3, I did a solo show. Kind of the same deal, live reactions. When you react to something in real time, you're feeling what those emotions are in the moments. I think sometimes when you sleep on something, you read about things, you just get a couple days to really consume and digest everything. Maybe your mind changes. I'll say this before we get into the show. Overall, I'm pretty high on the Bills draft, but I think I was higher on the draft night 2 at the time than I was now.
So opposite of last year, because last year you were very, very pissed off and distraught.
Yeah.
And I remember, but then you calmed down like a week later. You probably listened to Joe Marino, who's the godfather of fucking Bills content bros. And he was probably like the draft. And you were probably like, oh, you know what? It's not that bad.
I remember last year very well. I hated the Keon Coleman pick. I didn't like it during the process either. It's not like it was like, oh, I was shocked. And I knew he was a possibility. He was on my, I hope the Bills don't draft him list. They did. I wasn't a big fan of Dwayne Carter either. Yeah, I was very vocal about it. This year, I don't mind the trade up for the defensive tackle. And I'm going to explain why. When you look at some numbers, in which I'm going to get to in a little bit, I think it makes a lot more sense. I didn't like the Landon Jackson pick. And it's not that I don't like Landon Jackson as a player. He's fine. This was where the Bills, and we'll talk about this, they should have went wide receiver. And they wanted to go wide receiver. I got a couple things that I've heard coming out from
you got sources.
Sort of.
Sources, Pat. Working the phones or the DMs.
There's two things that happened during this draft one on night 2, one on day 3 that I've heard regarding the Bills that kind of didn't go their way. And we'll get into that in a second. Before that, I got to pull up. And by the way, props to everybody who's starting to file in, as always. Tooch, Ralph Wilson, Mark, Ryan.
Ralph in purgatory somewhere, probably complaining about
Patrick,
revenue.
Nathan. Shout out to all these guys. A lot of regulars here. Appreciate you guys a lot. I love having you on. Alex Barber, I'll start this one right away because this might set the tone, not necessarily for just tonight, but probably for the next 3 to 4 months or so when we get into that time of year where you get really mad because there's just nothing to talk about. I force you to come on and you got to bullshit your way through these episodes. Alex said, now that the draft is over, Joe should spend less time focusing on the draft bros and more time sticking it to the content bros. Is that your plan? Is that the Joe from Queens offseason plan?
Probably, yeah. I mean, the content bros are the draft bros. Like, there's a lot of I was thinking about this. There's the subsidiaries of the universe of content. You have the bro beat, and then you have the draft bros, the content bros, but you also have can't tell. We should the chat decide. There's Bills MZ, and then there's the same, AKA Bills Us Weekly, and those are the people who report on oh, this player likes blue cheese, or they're asking questions about fucking stupid, corny shit that would not be tolerated anywhere else. And that's the Bills MZ, or oh, this player said this about the Bills. Kira Leum said he wasn't happy at the end. Oh, he's talking shit, and it's no, he's not. You're just kind of getting a little bit tabloidish. So those are the subsidiaries of it. And then me, I'm just an outlier. I'm just an advocate for talking Buffalo. That's it.
For talking Buffalo and for Turkish Bears, man. So you were in Buffalo, like I said. We hooked up Resurgence for people who didn't catch night 1.
Yes, we hooked up at Resurgence, me and Pat. We were in the bathroom together. I'm sorry. You walked into that, buddy. No, we're kidding.
I did.
We're simply platonic, me and Pat.
For people, like I said, who did not catch night 1, Joe was with us here in person in Buffalo. I mean, I could say this. You've mentioned it on the show too. The reasons why you came up weren't great. Your mom's not feeling the best right now, so you had to come up help take care of her. Mm-hmm. So the circumstances sucked. But that aside, did you enjoy your brief time in Buffalo? You got, like I said, you got to go to Resurgence. Besides us, getting together and doing this show, you spent some time chatting it up with some other people as well. Got to have some Buffalo drinks, some food.
I enjoyed it. The draft party was cool. I saw that you are a psycho. I kind of feel in terms of Pat is he's attention to detail before that. He's looking at the lighting at the podcast station that we had, and he's keeps coming up to me, telling me random tidbits about the draft, which I don't care. I'm trying to drink beer and eat pizza. Just let me know when the Bills, and you're telling me, oh, this guy drops here, he's going to do this, and I'm I don't care. Let me know when they pick someone. But yes, Pat's a perfectionist. And I really enjoyed the pizza was good. The wings were good. No, there weren't no wings. The pizza was good. I should have ate more. I didn't eat that much because I was fucking tired. I drove up that day. I was up at 6 a.m. we didn't get home till 1 o'clock in the freaking morning.
Yeah, we didn't even
I was like
until people were filing up. 5 minutes into our show, it was empty except the servers and the people cleaning up. Like Jeremy and Joe came there. They hosted the show, of course. They hosted the event, and they were really cool, man. They were taking their time talking to a lot of people. You and I hung out with Jeremy quite a bit during the show. But anyway, yeah, everybody bounced after the draft.
I was talking to Dell a lot. Me and Dell love to commiserate. I think we're like people probably might think like you and Dell talking. Like Dell's like the nicest guy in the world, and I'm a prick. It's like I think of it as like the Emperor talking to Anakin before he turns maybe in Star Wars universe. I'll just say this about the whole trip, and this is pissing me off as we speak. Then we can get to the draft. Yeah. I fucking, when I'm leaving. Okay, so look, every day I get up between 6 and 7 a.m. with the little one. It's not fun. I'm not a morning person. I like to sleep in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving, and my wife's like, hey, enjoy catching up on sleep. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be great. I get to catch up on sleep. Mm-hmm. Fucking first night, I get home at 1. I wake up at 6 a.m. because old people, and Pat, you're one of them. You're old, but maybe not this old. Like my parents love to make fucking noise in the morning. And my dad makes an espresso at like 6:30. If you ever hear an espresso machine, it's like, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on downstairs? I'm like, so I wake up and I'm like, okay, and I gotta make sure my mom's okay. So I'm going downstairs, couldn't fall back to sleep. Then like the next night, my sister messaged me at 7:30 because she has to come to go help my mom out. She messages me at 7:30, like I'm running late, and I hear it. I'm like, when you're a dad, every sound you can hear, like, it doesn't matter if you're in a dead sleep, you hear a sound, like, what's going on? And I'm like, can I go back to sleep? Then last night, I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to sleep today. It's over. I don't care if the fucking house is on fire. I'm sleeping. I'm going to die in the smoke. I swear to God, at 6:15 in the morning, I don't know what the fuck was going on in Pendleton, but I heard this giant bird going. It was like a bird and a mating call, and it was right outside my freaking window. And I woke up and I thought, what the fuck is this sound? I swear to God. And I stayed up and I couldn't go back to sleep. I felt like my cousin Vinny in the one scene when he went to the freaking log cabin. He couldn't sleep. Like he was just trying to fucking sleep. And I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, no sleep at all. No sleep till Brooklyn. So now I'm back. I blew the whole sleeping thing. And I'm not gonna get that back ever again. So
and it's a long drive back to New York City.
Yeah. So all right, let's talk about the draft. Okay, let's talk. Let's go.
I want to ask you a serious question though, because you did spend some time in Buffalo, like you said, not under the best of circumstances. Your sleep schedule obviously ended up being dog shit. But
yeah,
this is something I wondered about when I wrestled with. So when I lived in Florida for 5 years and I would come back for Buffalo, if you come back during the right time, like if you go back in the winter, it's cold as fuck. You just get back to Florida or wherever you're at. And you don't want nothing to do with Buffalo because it's just so goddamn cold. But the weather was fine. Like we had nice weather. It was hot on Thursday for night 1 of the draft. When you go to Buffalo and you visit and then you go back home, do you miss Buffalo? Like, are those times like right now you're sitting there in Queens, New York right now? Do you get to the point when you visit, you come back where you start to wonder, like, man, I wish I lived in Buffalo. Should I move back ever or something like that?
Yeah, I mean,
like that when you go home and you come back.
I used to always get that feels. This time I really didn't. Mostly, I think it's because like my mom is not doing great, and so it's kind of like that's why I came back, was to help more so than anything else. And then it is like I think everyone who moves, they always do the fantasy game of what if I came back? What if I came back? And it's not going to happen, unfortunately. Mostly for my wife's career, I could probably. Yeah, those are the moments you have, especially when it involves sports and like hanging out. Like that was like the one, like because I have more friends honestly in Buffalo than I do probably here, and it was easier for me to leave the house. Whereas when I have a 20-month-old, I don't, I don't have that luxury. I'm sure back in your day, you were like, I'm out. Like to your wife, you were like, I'm leaving. I got to go meet Tone Pucks at the freaking drive-in or whatever. But I digress. But yeah, you come back and you get those vibes. But look, we're coming back at the end of June for like a week. The whole family is, so yeah. We could do a remote. Like the important things, you and I could do a remote somewhere again, and and then I'm gonna hopefully I have to go to a Bills game, and I'm going to do that. All right, come on, let's get to. No one wants to hear about this anymore.
It's like, let's go so we get the.
I got takes. No
more. So I shouldn't be giving any more shout outs to Resurgence.
No, enough. No, we're good. We're good. Sunny Reds, Resurgence. We love all of you. Okay, you're the greatest. Let's go.
I got a show announcement though, because this did come from night one of the draft. So you and I were there. We're watching the draft. Which, by the way, that was the first draft party I can remember being at. Usually I'm with a group of friends and we're watching the draft. Anyway, so when the Bills were on the clock, the 16-year-old kid, and this is the kind of a show announcement that I had today. Tommy Parzamiso, the 16-year-old kid, the Make-A-Wish kid, went on stage. The crowd got really loud for them. That shit was real cool. What a great dream for him to be able to go on stage Green Bay and announce the Buffalo Bills first round pick. Here's the announcement. Cool. The kid's 16 years old. He's from Orchard Park. And I'm mentioning this because he's going to be on the show with me on Sunday night.
Oh, that's awesome.
Not Sunday night, my bad. Wednesday. I had the graphic here all screwed up. Anyway, he's going to be with me. And this is the kid. I got him on the video side here. Tommy Parzamiso, who got to announce the Bills pick. He's actually going to be with me live this Wednesday night at Imperial Pizza.
That's awesome. Good for you.
We're going to get there. We're going to hook up. We're going to eat some pizza and wings. His mom's coming. She's going to bring him, and we're going to talk about his journey, the struggles that he's went through, what it was like to meet with Brandon Beane and learn that he was going to Green Bay. We'll talk about his time in Green Bay, being able to go on stage. He wouldn't look nervous at all. And that's kind of a pip-ass outfit he had out with the blazer and in the Bills Mafia handkerchief. That was really cool, man. So anyway, I'm really excited that he seems like a great kid. Cool. So he's going to be with me this Wednesday night, 8 p.m. live from Imperial Pizza.
I usually never listen to you outside of me, and I will listen to that. Cool. By the way, the chat is talking about Marissa Tomei, and I feel like we might have to circle back to Marissa Tomei at the end of the draft because a lot of she's pretty hot, I think. Would you agree? Yeah. Let's just talk about Marissa Tomei. I'm like,
it's because you mentioned the line from the movie.
Yeah, because I couldn't sleep. It was like I said, I was my cousin Vinny in the freaking cabin and the train going through, and we had a fucking bird. And if I had a gun, I would have went outside like in the movie and fucking shot like the bird. But I digress. But yeah, Marissa Tomei hot.
I said it again. I was waiting for you to say it again because look at the chat there. They're fucking with you.
I love saying digress. What do you want me to do?
Patrick Conti, how many times do you digress?
Look, I digress a lot. It's my tick when I'm like, look, I don't know what to talk. Let's go somewhere else. All right, let's go. Okay, Bills draft. Why didn't they pick a wide receiver? Volume 7.
So Brandon Beane, and we'll get into the defense there. Here's the two things that I've learned since the draft. Brandon Beane talked openly about this. There was a part of the draft where they were going to pick a wide receiver.
Sure.
But the board didn't work out that way, and then they pivoted and they took the best player available. From what I've heard, that I believe very much to be true, it was round 3. Okay. It was round 3. That's why I said with the Dane Jackson pick, it was round 3. They had 2 wide receivers, and they both got taken within like 5 picks before the Bills were on the clock. The first one was Kyle Williams, and the second one was, I believe, Isaac Tesla. Both those guys went late 60s. The Bills were on the clock at 72, and they didn't trade up. And neither of those guys were on the board. Those were the 2 receivers they had value at there. And then when that didn't work out, they ended up picking Dane Jackson. The other thing I've heard was it was the 5th round, and the Bills were set to take a linebacker, Chris Paul Jr., and the Rams knew that, and they jumped the Bills. They moved up 1 spot ahead of the Bills, and they took Chris Paul Jr. The Bills then pivoted, and they took that defensive back from Ohio State, Jordan Hancock. Instead, that was their plan B. But originally, they were going to take a wide receiver in the 3rd round, which makes a lot of sense because the Bills brought in 7 receivers for pre-draft visits. That was as much as any position. Yeah. And then Brandon Beane even kind of seemed a little befuddled or surprised himself that the Bills didn't take a wide receiver until the final pick in the 7th round. But they had plans to take one, and allegedly in round 3, and that's just
that could also be a smoke screen. Maybe they brought in a lot of people for smoke screen purposes. Who knows? I know Brandon Beane's very open, but at times I think he kind of works the room a little bit. But fine, but you didn't get it done in terms of if you were going to get a wide receiver, like trade up or whatever. Like if you like a guy, at that point, who cares? You're in the 3rd round, like give a 4th and another 5th. Like you had 10 picks. So you could do that if you wanted to. I'll just say this about, I'm not surprised by this draft at all. I felt, and I said it, I think I posted on Blue Sky the day of, like, this was going to be like the day of reckoning of they've always done, the last 2 years with their first picks, they got offense. And I felt like Sean McDermott and Brandon probably lost sleep over that because they're like, we need to rebuild the defensive rotation of doom and, the defensive line. And I just felt this was going to be an entire defensive draft. And last year at this time, I had given up hope for like the offensive doom. Like I gave it up. I remember I was like, it's not happening. They're not going to go and do what they're not going to do what 2020 was with the 4 or 5 wide receivers deeps. That was great. I loved it. And they got one guy last year, and the wide receiver core looked like shit. And on paper, and then this year it's basically the same. Going like maybe they sign Amari Cooper or freaking whatever. Like you can't tell me you feel better about the wide receiver room this year than you did last year. I don't. I think they're at best kind of the same. And now this year, when the draft is concluded, my entire thing is don't tell me that this is about complementary football. Now, in my opinion, they love using that buzzword. Two buzz phrases they love using. It's fucking everyone eats and complementary football. Complementary football to me means like balanced. Like you want to be good everywhere, kind of in a way. Not great everywhere, but good. There's no fucking way you can sit there and say they're complementary for how they built this team. Since Brandon Beane's been the GM, he has picked 8 defensive linemen within the first 3 rounds. You know how many wide receivers he's picked within the first 3 rounds? 1. They've picked, like, you cannot tell me that's complimentary. It is fucking not. This is the Carolina Panthers Cam Newton squad. Like, that is how they want to build it. I was listening to Beane's, presser, I think yesterday or whatever, and he was quoting, like, Gettleman, whatever the fuck that idiot from the Giants, which trust me, you don't want to be quoting that idiot because that guy was a terrible GM for the Giants. But it's all about defensive linemen, and it's exactly it. They wanted all these defensive linemen. And like, I don't really care about the 1 technique versus 3 technique. Like, I kind of agreed with Beane where he's like, you don't want to pigeonhole some guy. It's like, yeah, you want a fat guy to like, okay, great. But like, did the Eagles have a giant fat guy when they made Pat Mahomes run for his life in the Super Bowl? It seemed like they just had penetrators that were just getting upfield and getting after guys pretty quickly in that game. So, it's tough for me to say on one hand, it's like, there's just so much pressure on Josh Allen. They don't make it easy for Josh at all. And look, they could have got a wide receiver in the 3rd round. I'm of the mindset of whoever you draft, the first 2 rounds are like, I care. Like, I'm going to care because I feel like this guy should be good. He might impact the team that rookie year. After that, it's kind of like, whatever. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over who they pick because we don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot at that end, and I'm not counting on those guys to be impact guys in like the 4th, 5th round. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I'm not counting on that. It will be a bonus. But like the first 2 rounds, it's just like I get why they did that, but as I said, like I gave up on the offensive doom last year. This year, don't tell me it's complimentary football at all. It's bullshit. It's not. It's not at all. 1 wide receiver, like come on. And hey, look. I get it. I'm sure the McDermottites will say, like, well, they were first in scoring and all this shit. It's like, yeah, I get that. But you know what? Other teams who are first in scoring, like the Chiefs, they're getting wide receivers. The Eagles had a really good offense, like, last year and the year before. And they're like, fuck it, we're going to get Saquon Barkley. Like, who cares? Like, you're building on those. Like, you don't, I just sometimes they think they're building this team. And it's worked. But, like, it's like if you want to win a Super Bowl, I don't know. I feel like they're kind of they are so infatuated with running. They want to do balance on offense. They want to run the football. I mean, they got more tight ends they drafted than they have wide receivers, and it's like, what do you want Josh to do? Throw it to him fucking self? So, it's just kind of like it is what it is. Like I'm not that angry about it because I knew this was going to happen, and I hope they're right with the offense. Like, I know you're going to go into, like, the defense better be great, and we'll get into that, but I'll just say this about the offense. I watched a lot of football. I'm old. That's what happens. I feel like every year or so, you need to add a new ingredient to your drink. You have to evolve. And I don't think the Bills are coming back they're running it back with basically the same offense. Don't tell me Palmer's They are. Don't tell me Palmer's like the great like this. And I just think it's cliche, but I think defenses do catch up a little bit. And I don't think the wide receiver room is better than it was last year at this time. I just don't. Like, what do you want me to say? I didn't like the wide receiver room to begin with. But hey, if you want to tell me, well, like they were second in scoring and set all these team records, yeah, you might checkmate me on that. And I might be like, yeah, I get that. But I don't know. I just feel bad. I just wish they were a team. Man, like how many defensive fucking players do you fucking need? Like how many? Like, can we ever have an off season where they're just shopping for offense? Like, what we're talking about Curtis Samuel as their big free agent wide receiver signing in the last 6 years. Like, the fuck is that? It's just whatever. But hey, they're gonna win games. They're gonna win the division. We'll be praying that they do well. And go ahead, Pat, take it away, buddy.
No, I'm just look, it's hard to argue with a lot of what you're saying. I admit that, okay? And especially on paper, when you look at it, everything goes into the defense. When you're going to talk about why or what they did and why and what the goal is. But I will say this when it comes to the offense. I think this was their plan. And look, they signed Josh Palmer, who I think is better than a lot of people are going to give him credit for. I think he has an opportunity to be good in Buffalo. I think his best days may be ahead. And then they lose Amari Cooper and Mack Hollins. I like Mack Hollins. You can't fucking stand him. So I don't know why you would consider that any kind of loss.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I mean, look, I don't know. Do I like Mack Hollins? I mean, yeah, I didn't like him because he hated cats. But yeah, he was fine. But
well, I say this right now. I look at this roster, and Mack Hollins would be a great fit because he's a wide receiver 5 who could give you more.
He'd just be a dude. They have enough dudes,
dude, right now.
They have okay, great.
We're going the wrong way. I'm supposed to be defending the offense, and you're supposed to be bashing it. And that was
that's what we talked about in the pre-interview.
We're supposed to be flipping this. Here's what I will say with the offense. Going into this draft, you looked at this roster. There were openings on defense up the ass for a lot of things. On the offense, the only openings they had was tight end 3, wide receiver 5, maybe wide receiver 4, with a specific skill set, and a swing tackle. And they later in the draft addressed them. The tight end Jackson Haas, he's a good fit. He will be that Quinnen Morris. He's played a lot of special teams. He's a big boy. He loves to block. To your point, they want to run the ball more. That's a great tight end to have to do it because he's a really, really good run. He's probably the best run blocking tight end in this entire class. Anyway, 5th round pick, that's who they get. 6th round guy, they get a tackle from UConn. He may be the next Ryan Vandermark. He wasn't going to start. Nobody was going to start on the offensive line. Nobody was going to start at tight end. Nobody was going to start if they drafted a running back. And the receivers, they're 4 deep. They needed another receiver. And I'm with you on that. They should have drafted a wide receiver on day 2.
Here's the thing. Even if you get a wide receiver in the 3rd round, what impact is he going to have next year? I'm not counting on that.
Exactly, because they were already 4 deep. You talk about the offense. So last year they were historically good. Is that sustainable? I don't know. But you do have 2 things. Number one, you do have arguably the best player in football now. He's your quarterback.
Sure.
That means a lot. It means an awful lot. Number 2, I think all along, free agency, they got a complimentary piece in Josh Palmer, who maybe could be a little bit more than just complimentary. We'll see. But he's a complimentary piece. The offense to be good right now this year, the key to sustaining it is the 2 guys that you mentioned. You said the last 2 years, their first pick offense. This team is counting on 1st round draft pick, 2023 draft pick, Dalton Kincaid, to be what he was 2 years ago. And they are counting on Keon Coleman to be significantly more consistent and better than he was last year going into year 2. If Keon Coleman improves, and if Dalton Kincaid is what he was 2 years ago when he caught 73 passes, this offense is going to be just fine this year. It's on those guys. They need James Cook, who took a big step last year. And I know people are still going nuts about James Cook, which, by the way, Brandon Bean addressed this, and rightfully so. We're making fans, you and I,
you more than me. I don't need to talk about James Cook.
We're making it into a way bigger deal about James Cook wanting to get money, trade his ass. I mean, all this other bullshit. He ain't going nowhere. He never was going nowhere. It's not a real issue with the Bills, at least not at this time. James Cook stepped up last year. He needs to play like he did last year, which he's very capable of doing. Ray Davis can be better in year 2. That's my point, dude. Coleman, Davis, Kincaid, young guys who can keep getting better, get better.
Sure.
And if they do and they develop, then bam. You don't need to do what did you really need on offense? You just said it. Where's he going to play? You got Shakir, you got Coleman, you got Palmer, you got Samuel, who did some good things at the end of the year. They need their young guys to just continue to develop in a set and get better on offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's what and that's the big question is, do you have faith in that? And I don't know. Like, I don't know if, it sucks when you have your philosophy is everyone eats, and that means you got to spread the ball around because that's their offense. And then when everyone doesn't get their touches, then Brandon Beane and McDermott are complaining about them. They're complaining like, oh, Keon Coleman wasn't good on the way back. Well, fuck, you guys wanted to spread the ball around, and that hurts. And it's a great fucking rally cry, but on the field it can hurt those guys. But you're right. Hey, maybe Kincaid will break out. I don't know if they will, but this is a balanced team, and that's what they want to do. They are going to run the football. They're going to take pressure off the defense because that's what fucking McDermott wants. And look, he's got his, after 13 seconds, which you and I can sit here and we blame the defense for that debacle, and it's true. They went out, they got Von Miller, I think they signed Tim Settle, and, they drafted Elam. And, last year they lost to the Chiefs. A big part of it was the defense let them down, even though McDermott kind of blamed the offense a little bit on the final drive, which was weird. But what do? They invest all this money, free agency and draft capital into defense. We're about
to get into that too.
And that's the thing. And hey, all right, that's what you want to do. I wouldn't do that because I've told you this before. I hate the 10-man defensive line rotation of doom because there's too many assets you're putting towards that. And it's not like you're getting like, oh, hey, we have a 5th rounder who's like the 6th guy. It's like, no, we have to draft 8 guys within the first 3 rounds of defensive line. And that's not even counting the free agents you've signed. And it's like, you can't give me the 2014 Bills defensive line was just like 4 dudes and that's it. And they just want that. And it's like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm not a giant fan of it because I'd rather have 3 or 4 star defensive linemen than or not defensive line, but 3 or 4 star defensive players. Then we have 10 good guys that are going to be in this defensive line rotation. Like,
I hear you, man. Let me do this. On the video side, audio side will be a regular break. The video side, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll literally be back in about 3 seconds. And I kind of want to explain not only what the Bills have done on defense this offseason, but after doing some research, kind of why they did it. So real quick break, and we'll literally be right back. All right, back here, Joe from Queens. So look, at the end of this offseason now, free agency for the most part is over. They're going to make some moves, which, by the way, don't be surprised to see them add another receiver. But anyway, we'll get back to that. The draft, obviously, is over now. I want to pull up a comment because this was my point. And John Marlowe just said, Bills defense is going to be monstrous. Here's my number one takeaway for this offseason for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills offense or defense better be monstrous. Before I get into that, I want to run down some defensive team stats from 2024. I don't got no graphics to throw up. I'll just run them off real quick. I think now the Bills got to the AFC Championship game. They fell short against Kansas City. I don't want to revisit that game because there's still people who say, the offense needed to do more. A lot of people say their defense couldn't stop the Chiefs. Kind of both were right, but the Bills scored enough. They should have won the football game, and they didn't. But here's the thing. I think there was a perception that this defense was better than what it was because the Bills were number 1 in the NFL last year in plus minus. The offense never turned the ball over, and the defense was good at generating takeaways. You got to give them that. They were tied for 3rd best in the NFL in forced fumbles. They were tied for 1st in the NFL in fumble recoveries, and they were 5th best in the NFL in interceptions. The Buffalo Bills were absolutely fantastic at taking the football away. But when you are overly reliant on turnovers, I kind of feel like in them, it was a little bit of an outlier last year. It masked a lot of things about a defense that on the whole, both general stats and advanced metrics was incredibly mid. The Bills last year, they were 17th in yards allowed per passing game. All right. It's only 17th in passing yards per game. I'm sorry, 17th in yards per game, period. All right. So again, middle of the pack. They were 24th in the NFL in pass defense. Kind of sucked. Coverage not great. Didn't get to the quarterback enough. They were 12th in rush defense. They were 11th in scoring defense. They were 16th in red zone defense. They were 18th in sacks. And they only had 8 sacks from the interior last season, which was 3rd worst in the entire NFL. They were only 30th in generating sacks up the middle. They were 28th in third down defense, 43.8. The only teams in the NFL that were worse than the Bills on third down defense last year, Arizona, Indy, Atlanta, Carolina. That's it. That's the list. They were 28th in completion or quarterback completion percentage allowed against. They were 11th in quarterback hurries. They were, if you want to get to advanced metrics, they were 12th in EPA per play. They were 16th in defensive success rate. They were 20th in dropback EPA, 24th in dropback success rate, 5th in rush EPA. They're actually good there. 12th in rush rate success. Everything I just said, there ain't a top 10 to be had anywhere. They were in the middle to near the bottom defensively, rushing, passing, getting to the quarterback, pressure percentage, third down percentage, red zone percentage, all that shit. They were bad on defense. So that's why, as a result, other than Josh Palmer, every single is Joe's cleaning off his webcam here in real time. Everything other than Josh
numbers.
Everything other than Josh Palmer, the resources have been on defense.
Yeah.
And even Palmer, it was an ad, but it was kind of not because they let Cooper and they let Mack Hollins go. We just talked about this in the first half of the show. Offense, pretty much run it back like you said. But I just ran off all those numbers. Free agency, dude. Joey Bosa, Michael Hoecht, Larry Ogunjobi, Darrick Forrest, Tre White, Dane Jackson. And then in this draft, their first 5 picks were all defense. 6 of their first 7 picks were defense. And all defensive line and defensive back, too. Again, and
I'd be willing to bet they spent more on the defensive side of the ball just in free agency than they have on offense via free agencies in like the last 6 years.
I just read you why. That they were not good on defense last year.
Pat, I get it that. But this isn't. I understand if they want to say, hey, we need to fix this defense. You're right. They were a bend but don't break defense last year. They forced a lot of turnovers. Forcing turnovers is something that it's kind of luck a little bit, and it doesn't last forever. That's kind of like been the consensus of like following that. My whole thing is this is what they've been doing for years now with like even when the Bills had the number 1 defense in 2021 and 13 seconds happened, they still had to add Von Miller. They just were like, we need to add more. Like they care so much about defense. And I get like wanting to fix it, but it's just every single damn asset goes into it. It just feels like it's like, dude, like, I'm sorry. I know that after the Eagles-Chiefs game, when the Eagles dominated them, dominated the line of scrimmage, it was like, get us a defense like that. I'm here to tell you, two years ago, when those two teams met in the Super Bowl, the Eagles had 70 sacks that season, and the Chiefs just destroyed them in the Super Bowl. This year, I think it changed because the Chiefs weren't as good, even though they have the Bills number for whatever fucking reason. And I think this day and age, you shouldn't put that many assets in defense. I don't give a fuck. You're right. Oh, hey, they weren't very good, but what was their fucking record? They were 13-4. So even with a mid defense, you still got 13 wins. So why not just try to maybe either balance it a little bit more and get them a couple defensive linemen and then get another wide receiver or find some. What's the problem?
I know, but the offense, what are they going to do on offense? You could argue they need a receiver. What do they need? What does this offense need besides maybe one more receiver? They don't
need one more wide receiver. Give them 2. What do you mean one more? Who's your wide receiver? You're gonna hold on. Shakir's the only guy right now in that wide receiver room that I'm like, all right, I can hitch my wagon to that guy. I don't know about fucking Coleman. I don't know about Curtis fucking Samuel. Who's the other guy I'm missing? I don't even know.
Josh Palmer, they just signed him.
Yeah, great. Oh, we can't.
I mean, they gave him a good contract. They gave him a.
Bro, that's great.
Have
that's
50
great.
Or 4 catches this season.
Okay, great. They gave Curtis Samuel a lot of money too, and he got like 4 catches last year, and he caught a touchdown in the playoffs. And you're like, he's going to be great this year now. Look, you need more. You could get more wide receivers. None of those guys, aside from Shakir, are like, oh, okay, great. But hey, I get it. They were 13-4. They scored all those points.
The offense. That was the best offense in the history of the franchise last year, ever. They scored more points than they ever did in the history of the franchise.
Well, I mean, look,
it up. I don't agree with that. They need defense. You got to spend the money. Their defense is terrible.
Okay, terrible is an overstatement. Okay, they weren't terrible. They were mid.
Terrible is an overstatement. You're right.
They were mid, but you're not listening to the point that even when they were good and ranked number 1 before last season in certain categories, they still wanted to add more, and that's the problem. Look, I just thought you could have added a couple more on offense. That's all, and just keep it. You told me you're complimentary football, and you're not, and that's what I said in the first segment of the fucking show. They're not. And like they're not going to lose. They're not going to lose the division. They're going to win the division. We're going to be here again next year. They're going to be in the playoffs. It's going to be great. But wouldn't you like to have a couple like studs and wide receiver to help our boy out, Josh Allen over here? And again, this is the key, Pat. This is the fucking key that I keep telling you. I've been telling you this since day fucking 1. This day and age in 2025, defense does not win championships because the league has their finger on the scale. They want more offense. That's how it's always fucking going to be. It's going to be that way until the end of time because they want to, because of head injuries and all that shit, and they want to entertain fans. That's why. And to me, they just do not. They're still living in it's 2014, 2013 Carolina Panthers where we need 100 defensive linemen because that's going to win us a Super Bowl. I don't know exactly if that's going to work. I would rather have a number 1 wide receiver. But they don't want that. And they did exactly what you wanted. They went all in on defense. I was fine.
I'm not saying that's what I wanted necessarily.
That's what you wanted. You just said By the way, people in the chat, we will get to your comments at the end. I know people because we're ignoring the chat because it's Pat's fault. But we will get to your comments at the end of the show. But as I was saying to you, you're right. Yeah, they needed to add some more to their defense. They just don't need to add this fucking much and just ignore the offense. I just because again, it's not gonna matter if you have if you have a lineup of all these defensive linemen that you draft, fucking sign. In this day and age, it's just hard to. I don't know. It's hard. I'm always gonna pick if it's a great offense versus a great defense. I'm always gonna pick the great offense. Then they go head to head. And I know, you have outliers and all that shit. But
it's not that I disagree with you. I just keep going back to this team needs more help on defense than it does on offense. It needs a receiver, and I'll even give you the benefit of the doubt and say they could use 2 receivers. Aside from that, the offensive line is set in stone. Tight ends are set in stone. Running backs and quarterback are set in stone. I mean, there's only so much work that you could do on the offense. This defense, all 3 levels of it, needs to be better. And that's why I think they've invested as much. And you look at this team, what they've done the last 4 or 5 years. What has happened every year in the playoffs? Has the offense been utterly unstoppable in elimination losses? No, they haven't. Okay, I'll say that. They've left points on the board. They did it last year in Kansas City. They did it the year before in Orchard Park when they played the Chiefs. They did it against the Bengals. Actually, the Bengals game, they just got their asses kicked on both sides of the ball all over the place. Well, what's happened the last couple of years? This Sean McDermott or Bobby Babbitt, whatever the hell you want to call it, defense gets to the Kansas City game or the Cincy game, because that's the other team that beat them, and they fucking lay an egg. They get trampled. They're helpless. It's one thing to not be able to make a stop, Joe. The last 2 years and the last 2 losses against the Chiefs in the playoffs, this has been a defense that's been helpless. It's not even like they've made a bunch of good plays and got a couple bad breaks against them, a mistake or two, and bam, touchdown Chiefs. They have methodically went up and down the field at will and scored on the Bills easily, way too often. No pass rush. The coverage has been terrible. The secondary was atrocious last year once Christian Benford went down. So this is where you have to allocate the resources. And let me run before we go back and forth to that. I just want to remind people what they've done again in free agency with 1, 2, 3 defensive linemen. All three are probably their biggest signings, even though 2 of them are going to be fucking suspended for a third of the season. And then they signed a couple guys in the secondary. They went big in the draft on defense. Here's the question that I've been waiting to ask you, though, okay? This is the important thing, and this is kind of like the premise of the conversation today with me. If they invest all these allocations into the defense, and they did, right? Mm-hmm. And let's just say this defense is no better or maybe just mild to moderately better, and we end up getting the same result at the end of the season where they run into the Chiefs in the playoffs, or maybe this year it'll be the Bengals, I guess, or the Ravens. Doesn't really matter. And it's the same defense. At what point do you start saying it's not just the players? Now, this is a Sean McDermott problem. And I know there's a lot of people, whether they're live in the chat here, whether they listen or just anti-McDermott people, they're just drooling to be able to blame this entire operation on Sean McDermott. I get it. Do they have ammunition, though? Like, if this defense, with all these free agent signings and all these draft picks, if this is the same defense this year that it was last year, because they ain't running it back like the offense, it shouldn't be the same. It should be way better. If it's not way better, is it time to have a Sean McDermott conversation, a Bobby Babbage conversation, and even a Brandon Beane conversation for signing these guys and drafting these guys?
It depends how they finish the season. If they make it to the AFC Championship game and they lose the same way, you're probably not having that discussion. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, if they finish 10-7 and they lose in the wild card and their defense sucks, then yeah, you have a conversation. It's probably going to be more about Babbage than it is going to be about McDermott. But at the end of the day, like, the defense, you said it. They've been underwhelming in the playoffs. They've been underwhelming. I mean, at times, I'm going back to it, man. That's just how this league is now. And they, as I said, they're stuck in 2014. Excuse me. They're stuck in that time frame where they think you really need a good defense. You got to build and build and build, and they put all this assets in, and just, even if you have a great defense,
shouldn't they have a great defense now? They just signed.
No, because
shouldn't they? What's their excuse to not? What excuse did the Bills to not? What excuse did they have to not have a top 5 defense this year in the NFL?
Because the league won't allow it.
What do you mean?
The league won't. Having a top 5 defense doesn't mean shit. Because I keep telling you, the offenses are going to run those guys off the field. That's how it normally is. Yes, you do have your outlier of, like, the Eagles beat the fucking Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but I'll go back to 2021. The Patriots had the number 1 defense in the league, and the Bills in the playoffs had dropped 47 on them. It doesn't. That's why, like, yeah, great. If they have a top 5 defense, okay, great. What does that mean? You're probably going to still need to score 30 points against the Chiefs. That's why I'm of the mindset of win these games like 40-30. Like, just score them off the fucking court. But they don't want that.
Do you want the Bills to be the Sabres? Here's what I mean. Do you want them to have fucking all this cap room because they don't spend? They don't need. There's nothing else they could do on offense except go get another receiver. There's nothing else they need. There's nothing else they could do. If you could get an extra possession or two, because, again, the Bills defense, Joe, they can't get off the field on third down. They can't get to the quarterback. They can't get no pressure on the quarterback. They can't get off the field. Okay. Force a punt or two more a game, and you're going to win 40-30 or whatever. They can't even do that. They can't get off the field when it matters most.
What do you mean they can't win 40-30?
I don't care about November.
They won fucking games when they beat Detroit 45-40 or something like that. And Detroit was the best team
in November. They got to beat the Chiefs.
So what do you want? Do you agree how they're building this team? Why don't you, like, I feel like you're just arguing with me just to argue with me. What do you like how they built it?
Do I like how they built this team?
Yeah, do you like it?
Yes and no. I still think they made a mistake. Now, I'm with you on the receiver thing. They needed another receiver. Why is it one of those 4 guys get hurt? It's going to happen, right?
You know what I would have liked? I would have liked a guy like DK Metcalf. I would have liked that, or like something like that. I would have liked that.
There's still guys out there too, by the way. There's still guys reportedly available potentially for trade. Jameson Williams, he's been blowing up here in the chat tonight from Detroit. Allegedly, he's been available for trade. Now that the draft's over, though, I don't know. The teams want to trade players for picks next year. I don't I don't know, but George Pickens from Pittsburgh. There's still guys, Chris Olave maybe from New Orleans. They're it's April.
Look, again,
they're
not, and I know I'm on the negative side. It seems like I get like, I just wish it was a little bit more balanced in the offseason needs, and like they added a couple more wide receivers. And I think
I don't think balance in terms of what they need, though. I just
you just said they need wide receivers, dude. You just said it, so you're fucking arguing with me.
They need defensive line help. They needed corner.
Yes, I just said Pat. Do they need fucking 8 defensive line? How many defensive linemen do they add to this fucking roster?
30.
Yeah, exactly. 30. Do they need 30? Do they fucking need 30? No, they don't need fucking 30. Just add like 1 or 2, like a regular fucking team. He said, no, we need the fucking, like they have like, I don't even know how many fucking defensive linemen they have now. They're going to have a 10-man defensive line rotation. Great. Awesome. Everyone fucking eats on the fucking defense.
The suspensions, the suspensions, the 2 guys, Hoecht and Ogunjobi, are going to be suspended for 6 games.
Great.
I think
they'd probably get 20 snaps even if they were playing, because we have 10 different defensive line rotations.
Larry Ogunjobi's a signing that Brandon Beane's, it's a bad look now at this point. It's a bad look. Where the hell is he going to play? Where the hell is he going to play? When is he going to play? When he gets back? Because now you traded up to go get TJ Sanders. So now you got to add over TJ Sanders.
Here's the question. I'm interrupting you because I'm sick of you already. Here's the question that I have for you. I just burped. Excuse me. Burped again. Okay. Which one of these defensive linemen? I said this last week on the podcast that the rookies under McDermott and McBean, especially on the defensive side of the ball, have not had impacts as rookies. They, outside of Rousseau and Christian Benford, a little bit of Ed Oliver, but a lot of them, even when they turned out to be good, like Bernard and a couple other guys, like it took them a year or 2. So how are you? So they got what? How many defensive linemen, or even in the first round, whatever the fuck they picked, I already forgot. It's been a while, but like the cornerback, like, do you see any of those guys? Like, are you counting on them to be an impact guy this year?
That's a good question. So
because I'm not. I think, and then you can tell me I'm wrong or right. I have said this before. I believe defensive linemen, it takes 2 years to get into your role as a defensive lineman in this league. That's my feeling. Look at every defensive lineman the Bills have had, and like look at how they were as rookies, and then look how they were the third year. It's night and day a lot of times. And I don't feel like, they got these 8-9 defensive linemen. I think they're waiting for those defensive linemen to be good next year when Bosa's gone and the fucking Steelers guy is gone, and like, they're 1-year wonders. And then they're like, okay, you guys go in, it's your team now. So I don't think these rookies are going to have that big of an impact on the squad. I'm not counting on them. Maybe cornerback, maybe like with what the fuck's the guy they just drafted in the first round?
Harrison,
yes, thank you. I'm tired. Like I could see him starting because there's nothing really there outside of Tre White a little bit, and you're going to always go against 3-4 wide receiver sets. But the rookies in the second and third round, like who are defensive linemen, I don't know if they're going to fucking get on the field. Your boy Dwayne Carter hardly got on the field last year, and now maybe he's going to get on this year. I don't know. So it's like, you got these rookies, and I'm just like, all right, great. See what happens.
I love how you directly asked me the question and then gave the answer anyway.
I'm just asking because you're like getting all hot about these. You're like, they had to add these defensive line. What are they going to do next year?
I think it's a good question. If you let me answer, I think it's a good question that you just asked me. I think Maxwell Harrison is going to start. I think he'll be a week 1 starter. I think he'll beat out Tre White. He should be able to. I think he should start week 1. TJ Sanders, you hate the rotation. Get used to it because he's going to be part of it. He's going to be part of it. Deion Walker, same thing.
Is he the fat one or the thin one? Which one's the fat one?
Walker's the fat one.
Okay. All
they moved up. Brandon Beane, you can say what you want, whether these guys end up being good or not. But one thing about both Walker and especially Sanders, the Bills traded up to go get both those guys. They were guys that Brandon Beane wanted. He moved up for both of them. They're going to be in the rotation. The question is, who loses? Who are the losers in this rotation? To me, you mentioned Dwayne Carter, and people were going nuts on me 2 days ago and yesterday a little bit, saying, if you call a guy a fucking bust, or not a bust because he was a third round pick, but you're writing him off after 1 year. Well, my thing is this. How's he going to get on what's his path to playing? Because you got Ed Oliver, you got DaQuan Jones.
Well, they got 24 defensive linemen. They're all going to play. Don't worry. They're all going to play. They're all going to play. They're all going to play.
Even if Larry Ogunjobi, who, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised.
6'2" defense is what they're going to run. Is 6'2". That's what
Larry Ogunjobi might never play a snap for the Bills. He's suspended for 6 games. If they're healthy and play well, he's probably going to get cut after that. But even with him cut, Ed Oliver, DaQuan Jones, Sanders, Walker, where's the path to Dwayne Carter getting more than 10 snaps a game to show you that he's going to do something? I already got the Boogie Basham vibes, different types of players, but the same. I knew after 1 year, Boogie Basham was going to be shit for the Bills. I already feel that way about Dwayne Carter at this point. AJ, I don't know what happens with him because Landon Jackson's kind of the same player, and they got Bosa, and they got Greg Rizzo, and they got, like I said, AJ Epinesa. How much does Landon Jackson play? Probably not a lot. I don't think this is going to be a rookie class that's going to be overly impactful as rookies.
So you don't think these rookies are going to, outside of Maxwell, you don't think these guys are going to do much?
That's not true.
Well, I'm just saying, like, look, they know that they got to know the system. Everyone, that's what fucking Bean, he redshirts a lot of defensive rookies because his defense is very complicated because you got to know the Bible and the troops and all this shit. I don't fucking know. But yeah, he needs all these, like, you got to sit, and it's like, great. So you lose cheap eligibility for the guys who are going to get paid in 2 years if they're good. But
Mark says Carter, because you know Sean McDermott loves this. Dwayne Carter. Carter is a 10-time captain at Duke, so according to McDermott, he is.
He wants a wrestler too, and he wants culture. And by the way, I wanted to mention this. Shout out to Catherine Fitzgerald for asking about Harrison's like sexual allegations against him when he was in college, which I'm sure none of the Bills Broby wanted to touch because they were too busy trying to get tea time or where the fuck it's called at whatever the golf courses are over there. But good for her to ask that.
Joe's getting feisty and angry.
I'm just tired. I don't even like. I'm sick of talking to you. This is the third time in fucking. I spent more time with you than I have with my wife in the last 3 days. So like,
I kind of want to, instead of fighting about do they need more offense or more defense, or instead of fighting about how many defensive linemen in their rotation are doing that they have, I want to go back to the question that I've been trying to ask you now for a half hour or so. And that is this: forget about it. It's done. What's done is done. They've drafted who they draft. They signed who they signed. They decided they're going to go defensive makeover and basically run it back on offense. That's done now. Okay. Here's my question for you again. If this defense with all these additions and all these resources is the same defense that we saw last year and the year before, that has moments, but they're inconsistent, they're middle of the pack, and they get run out of the stadium in another playoff loss, when is there time to have a conversation? Is Sean McDermott the right head coach? Should Bobby Babich be defensive coordinator? Is Brandon Beans drafting the wrong guys who are not helping this team? Is he signing the wrong free agents? Like, he could have signed someone else other than Bosa. If Bosa doesn't give you what you're hoping for this year, and he's hurt and this and that, and he's been what he's been the last few years, at what point do we start saying, you know what, maybe Big Baller Bean is not the answer like everybody thinks he is? That's what I'm saying. At what point, if this defense, if they're not better this year, what do you think of the coaching staff and the general manager who's making?
If they're not better, look, I think McBean will get a pass. I think Babich will be the fall guy. It will be like Dorsey, where Dorsey, statistically speaking, his first year, 2022, the offense, I don't know what the fuck. I think they were in the top 5 probably for scoring. Then they couldn't. Josh Allen got broken and they fired him because he threw too much or whatever the hell happened. But he got out of here pretty damn fast. And again, we know that. I don't give a shit what anyone says. We know McDermott loves defense. He gives them every shot. Like, I go back to the Rams game when he complained he didn't run the football enough when their defense was a fucking nosebleed and couldn't stop anyone. I could see Babich being like the fall guy if their defense doesn't get better. But here's the thing, Pat. You're right. The defense should be better. They've invested enough. They have a lot of guys. And I think the way the fall would fall, if they're like, let's just say they lose in the divisional round, their defense stinks. I think it would go to the DC. The DC would be the fall guy. And at that point, then I would say, like, you should really consider bringing outside coaches, not firing Sean, but like bring a defensive coordinator who is not under the freaking Sean McDermott learning tree. Like a guy's going to come in and bring his own shit. Because I'm not going to sit here. I mean, you can ask one of the film bros. I don't know how different schematically this defense is from 2017 to today. Because obviously they've had two different defensive coordinators, Frazier, Babbage. Everyone wants to say it's McDermott's defense. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, it's a very cliche thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, if it is his defense, then and it fails, then you need to go and change the defense. Whether it's you're going to get a blitzkrieg defense or you're going to play man, I don't fucking know. But if it fails next year, I agree with you. They don't have any really excuses because last year their defense, while it was very mid, that's how I would describe it. They did overachieve when you look at who they had. They had fucking Hamlin. Matt Milano was out for almost the entire season. Their defensive line was basically. Honestly, AJ Epinesa, Ed Oliver, and Greg Rousseau, and a bunch of other dudes like Jordan Phillips, zombie Jordan Phillips, and fucking the Jefferson guy. It wasn't a great defense personnel wise. And now this year they went in, they rebuilt everything. They rebuilt it. Now I don't know if it's good or not, but they added a lot of new guys there, so it has to be better. And yeah, I agree. If it fails, then I think it's going to go on Babbage. And then I think, and they won't listen to me because they're dumb, I will go on their fucking, which I've been bitching about this for 70% of this fucking podcast. They just are obsessed with building a defense. And I do not agree with that. At best, I will listen to complimentary football. Like, you want balance. And I don't think they have that really, especially with how they build this roster. There's no fucking way you can tell me that they have one wide receiver within the first 3 rounds since 2018. Give me a fucking break. What's next? Can we take some comments? Are we done? Can we do comments from the peanut gallery?
We're not done. You didn't mention Brandon Beane. You talked a lot about
him too. I mean, whatever.
Basically you said the fall guys would be Babbage, McDermott, it's whatever. They're not getting rid of him. I agree with that.
Well, it would be on McDermott and him in terms of they believe. They want to build defensive lines. I don't agree with that. I just don't. But they don't agree with me. So
I want to pull up a comment because I want to answer this. Jason says the defensive line underachieved last year, which made the plans at all the other positions look bad. They expected more pressure to cover up their other deficiencies. I think you're saying they're invested in it, and they didn't deliver. All right, listen. So Brandon Beane, you signed Joey Bosa. You signed him to be your January closer. That's what he's here for. Okay, that's not even debatable. All right. It's what they hoped Von Miller would be and never was. That's Joey Bosa. Michael Hoecht, a guy with position versatility who can move around, a chess piece. Larry Ogunjobi, who I don't even think is going to be, he might not even play it down for this team. So you know what? If he helps do anything, fine. But if they're healthy during that 6-game suspension, I think he's going to get cut immediately after. And then they drafted 3 guys on the defensive line, or 2 guys, I'm sorry, 3 guys on the defensive line with their first 4 picks. They need this defensive line to be better because if it is, the secondary will be better. The linebackers will be better. Before we wrap up, I do want to say this because I didn't really get a chance. We've done live reaction shows like an hour after the draft each day. And going through this draft real quick, players, and I won't go through the whole draft because I don't give a shit about the back end of the draft. Those are depth guys. Those are going to be special teams. There will be some interesting camp battles. I know you're going to laugh at training camp stuff. But towards the end, but I will say this. Reflecting now, when the Bills were on the clock at 30, if the board played the way it played out, I think Max Harrison was the right pick. A lot of people were talking about Trey Amos. You were at the draft party, and that was the buzz, was Trey Amos. Dude didn't end up going to the very end of the 2nd round. All right, so there's something to that. I think Harrison, with his speed, the ability to cover fast receivers and crossing routes, things like that, he was the right pick. I think Sanders was a good trade-up, too, because of one of the reasons I said. They only had, I think, 8 sacks from up the middle this year. They need to be better pressuring up the middle, and he does that well. Deion Walker, going into the 4th round and getting him, I think he's your DaQuan Jones replacement. And if you could get DaQuan Jones in the 4th round, a big fatso who's going to take up, lanes and a little bit of versatility, a little bit of juice in getting to creating pressures, I think that's a good pick in the 4th round. I don't like the Landon Jackson pick. That's where they needed to go get a wide receiver, and they wanted to. Brandon Beane screwed up. He should have traded up and got one of the two guys that he liked. And then, like I said, the back end is fine. The only pick, I guess, upon reflection, I got issue with was Landon Jackson, which is funny because 2 years from now, he might be the most consistent player of all the guys that they've taken. We're at the point right now before we get to comments. You hate this time of year. The draft's over now. This is the time of year Joe from Queens gets even more miserable.
Yeah, I really would like a replacement. So anyone in the chat, like Tooch, Darrick, I'm looking at there's some guy named Sober. You guys can be the host or co-host because I fucking don't like any of this.
What are we gonna do when it gets to be like OTAs and mini camp, training camp?
I mean, I'm just gonna make fun of everyone who has like some shitty player as the OTA MVP, like last year when Chase Claypool was the fucking MVP and he died, and he's on a milk carton somewhere. Yeah, this is the stupider time of year. Training camp's stupid, but OTA is the dumber of the dumbs because that's just
instead of doing a Mount Rushmore like we've been doing most weeks. Let's talk for.
Can I just say this? You know what? This reminds me before we talk about the Flushmore shit. Or whatever the fuck you want to get to. I am so sick and tired of hearing about Keon Coleman. I may have said this last week. I don't remember, but I think Josh Allen talked last week about he gained weight. That's like, what? He gained weight like in 2 weeks since the last time like Brandon Beane talked about him, and I'm so sick. Like that is more of an I can understand the Cook stuff a little bit because it's like he's had some he's talked about it, and like there's no update. There's not going to be any update until like fucking a legit update on Coleman, like physicality or whatever, until like the regular season starts. I know he's going to be in the best shape of his life. Everyone's going to ask that, but anyway, go ahead.
I'll give you a hot take. I think Keon Coleman might be one of the 5 most important players on this team this year.
Sure,
they're counting on him. They did not sign a stud in free agency. They did not draft a receiver high. They are counting on Keon Coleman taking a big next step.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get over Mack Hollins leaving, and of course he's going to be your number one
he
guy.
would be a great fit for this team right now.
Oh my God, he'd just be a dude.
Well, a wide receiver 5, that's a dude. Well, they don't have that dude.
No, they don't have a wide receiver 2. They don't have a wide receiver 3. No, you have guys, but you're counting on them, and like I don't know, it's all weird. Anyway, let's get. Okay, what do you want to do? The Flushmore or whatever the fuck?
I feel like I'm torturing you right now by making you stay on this show.
We have a lot of good comments, and you're ignoring them. I feel like you failed.
I'm not ignoring them. I'm going to get to
someone just mentioned it. Mark over here says you should give more time for these comments. And you're not. Pat's a terrible host. No, I'm just kidding. Pat's a great host. But,
he said, the Mark said the Mack Hollins funeral.
Instead of doing that happen?
Instead of doing a Mount Flushmore, who are a couple guys off the top of your head that, because when we get to the time, if you're new to this show, if you haven't been around with Joe absolutely fucking hates OTAs. Like somebody, and you're not wrong, somebody in the media or content creators are going to lose their mind. Who's the 7th round pick? I forgot his goddamn name already. Let me look at it real quick. Caden Prather. He's the 7th round pick. He's going to high point a ball over Tre White at OTAs or something like that. The media
they'll have a
rave about it, and Joe's going to lose his
Dan Fentis is going to shoot that and be like, "This is the greatest footage I've ever shot." And great. But no, you know what? I mean, look,
minicamp. Give me who are a couple guys that you can remember just in recent years that were like people, fans, content creators, media, whoever it may be. We were drooling over them like they're going to be stars. This is going to be their, they're shining. They look great in t-shirt and fucking shorts. And then they end up getting cut a week in the camp, or they never end up playing and mattering. There's some guys like that every year.
The past, like Nate Peterman comes to mind. Like he was training camp, preseason training camp, OTA god, and he was awful. And I never believed in that guy. Chase Claypool, last year was like the MVP of like OTAs. I think your boy Perino said that. And I was like, all right, man. Well, that's those guys are like half of them are just like, can we not get hurt? And they're like you said, they're doing jump balls with no pads and just in shorts. Like it's impossible. I get you have to report on that stuff, but it's like you shouldn't. You should just put a big giant like surgeon warning in the beginning of your article. Like this is bullshit. I'm just reporting what I saw, but it's bullshit. And
OTA
got OTA guy. Who else was an OTA? I mean, it's usually like the running backs. I'm sure what's going to happen is I can already see it. everyone for this offseason, because like I can think of training camp people more than OTA. I don't want to do the training camp when we have to save that for fucking July content, bros. But I feel like
Claypool last year looked really good in OTAs, man. T-shirt, he was looking
everyone,
the part.
Yeah, he was looking the part.
Being back.
But this year, I think it's all going to be about Coleman. I think everyone, the Bills bro beat is going to be like focused on him. And I understand like fans want to hear about that shit. It's going to be all about him. Okay, oh, he came in. He looked like he had 20 pounds on him, even though it's like, all right, what do you remember? I can't tell you when I looked like 20 pounds ago. I don't fucking remember. It was like 3 months ago, and I probably gained it back. I don't remember what the fuck I looked like, but people are going to remember what Keon Coleman looked like 20 pounds ago. But he's going to be the big OTA that everyone's going to talk about. It's always going to be the rookies, and it's always going to be like whoever is like the question mark. And it's like, and I feel like Keon Coleman is kind of the question mark. Maybe Kincaid's going to come in and he's going to be beefy. He's going to be like, look at my arms. Oh, and he's going to look like that. And people are going to talk about that. But yeah,
I think so. OTA.
Please, can I go on vacation for this? The OTAs, whenever the fuck
OTA darlings. The 7th round rookie, he's 6'3". You're talking about needing receivers. He looks the part. He's like 6'3", 204. He's really.
Why don't you bring your boy Fansky on here and he can fucking talk about the 7th rounder? I don't want to hear this. Let's go to the comments. This is terrible. Where's comments?
All right, actually, you're right. I kind of want to.
Yeah, get to the comments. These are the stars of the show, not fucking Chase Claypool yesterday.
Well, we'll start out with Steve Noble, who says absolutely love Joe, but he is suffering from draft postpartum.
No, Steve, I'm just tired. I drove 7 hours. I got up at 6 a.m. because of a fucking bird outside my fucking window at my parents' house, and I'm just very grumpy and tired, and I need to go snuggle my wife.
Steve also said he's going to disagree with my boy Joe from Queens. Defense won the last Super Bowl. End of story. And Mike Chop. Well, Tampa Bay's defense also won a Super Bowl. And I would even argue the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago won their Super Bowl because their defense was great. Their offense was kind of pedestrian. Defense does.
Well, hold on. The San Fran game with the 49ers, that was more, or San Fran Chiefs one, that was like miscues. And then they started.
But their defense carried them to the Super Bowl, the Chiefs defense 2 years ago. Their offense sucked 2 years ago, and they still got to the Super Bowl.
Sure. Okay. I don't know. Okay. They scored 27 on the Bills, but sure. Okay.
Nathan Dane says he agrees because we've been beefing about the whole offense versus defense allocation thing. He says he agrees with both sides.
There's no way you can tell me, as I said, there's no way you can tell me they pay attention to both equally. They fucking do not.
I agree with you. They don't pay attention. I don't think they should pay attention equally. And that's what we've been kind of fighting about.
Yeah, but we're right. Wait, you're saying they shouldn't pay attention to it equally, right? You're saying they should.
No, because the defense needs a lot more help. The defense was a lot worse than the offense. So I think they needed to dump a lot more.
But it was a little bit too much. But sure, go ahead.
And Nathan also says, and this matters too, a couple extra possessions makes a big difference. Sure.
But they did get those extra possessions. They got turnovers. So sure.
Yeah, but they didn't get off the field on 3rd down, and they didn't sack the quarterback.
I agree. Like I said, look, I'm not saying they could have. I'm not saying they had to go in this offseason and not do anything on defense. They needed to do some stuff, but they don't have to fucking like spend everything for the. So it's more about the last 5 years. Go ahead.
Steve said Joe from Queens discussing balance is like asking Barney the purple dinosaur how his prostate exam went. Okay. I don't get that one either side.
I got to think about it. I have dad brain.
Kevin Howard says suspensions are bad looks for them.
Yeah, it looks stupid. Looks like you didn't do your research, and no one's gonna care.
Well,
like, Randy Bean's hilarious. Ha ha! He's so funny. Look at the pizza he got. No, go ahead.
Larry Ogunjobi, they signed him. They knew he got suspended, and they signed him afterwards anyway. And then they drafted 3 defensive linemen, 2 defensive tackles, 1 who plays the spot directly. That to me was kind of baffling. I was like, why did you sign him? Now they could get out of that contract. And again,
well, I tell you why they signed him. I'm telling you this, Pat. They are going to redshirt these defensive linemen. I am telling you, they're going to redshirt them. I will give you a hot take. They are hardly going to play this year. Hardly.
I don't agree with that. Chooch says Daquan Jones is close to being washed. I think Daquan Jones might be washed.
That's Pat's one of Pat's all-stars, original boy.
He just look. He was really good, and then age catches up to you. He was just, you like saying just a dude, like Mack Hollins was just a dude. Daquan Jones at this point is just a dude. John Marlowe says, I have Daquan on the team till the 2 suspensions are lifted. All right. That's Michael Parthel. I think Terry Pagula values McDermott too much as a family man. Christian values guys to fire him for anything less than consecutive losing seasons with the healthy Josh Allen. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, Google loves him. It's the one hiring he made that on the surface looks good. Like he's a wreck when it comes to the hockey team, and he's the Rex Ryan thing didn't work. I think the only way he can McDermott is if there is an open rebellion against him within the locker room. Like Josh Allen is like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Like all those guys, and Brandon Bean goes to and does a small a coup and like gets rid of him. That's the only way that's going to happen.
I agree 100%. Josh Allen is the one dark horse guy, the one guy with the iron fist that could go to Terry Bagul and say, listen, we ain't winning a Super Bowl with Sean McDermott. This defense falls apart every year. Look, the motto of this offseason clearly was that we need the defense to help Josh Allen. The defense has let the Bills down in the playoffs, and we need to fix that. Whether it works out or not, we don't know. But that was clearly the motto. Josh Allen could absolutely go to Bagul and say, we got to make a move here. That's the only thing that's going to get Sean McDermott fired. I agree 100%. Right. Jason says, this is the understandable criticism of re-signing Greg Rizzo. Where is the pressure when we need it? Among all the guys on the line, when have they dominated an important game?
It doesn't. I mean, the only guy Lamar Jackson, they've had some success against. And even though this year I felt like they got crushed that regular season game, and in the playoffs they kind of had miscues, the Ravens. But yeah, there have not been moments where the defense has carried Josh Allen in like a pivotal game, it feels like to me. And they don't really help Josh Allen out all that much, it seems like.
Kevin Howard says, tired of people looking the part. Just pay the playmakers and deal with the headaches that come with all-stars. This team doesn't have all-stars. They really don't.
Well, but everyone eats. And look, they were 13-4 last year. They made me look stupid. They made you look semi-stupid because you like them more than I did last year. Like, what do I know? But yeah, it would be nice if they had some more offensive players.
Mark says, let's talk about Marissa Tomei.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask this about Tomei, okay? Because I want the chat to answer this. Which Tomei version was hotter? The wrestler Tomei, where she was like the stripper and the love interest, or the Randy the Ram guy, or her from My Cousin Vinny? Yes, this is what we're getting at during OTA season. Marissa Tomei comments. So everyone in the chat, feel free to say which Marissa Tomei.
I don't remember her from the wrestler, man.
Oh, she was like the stripper, and she was the love interest for Larry the Ram. Like, she told him to like not go out and wrestle. Like, she liked him, and then he was like, "No, this is my life," and he did it, and she like left. He picked wrestling over Marissa Tomei, which is a fucking embarrassment. Because
a couple of people instantly are saying easily it's My Cousin Vinny. I just don't. I don't remember her from specific. I've seen the wrestler. I just don't remember her from the movie.
All right. Well. Anyway. All right. But also she was a very talented actress. Looked good. She was good in the Spider-Mans too. So
yeah. Michael Parthen said, "Where's Joe's OTA bingo board? Are we going to get an OTA bingo board this year?"
No.
That actually could be. No, it could be entertaining, dude. That is your chance to really make fun of the media.
No, that's going to be training camp. Training camp is going to be the next bingo board, Michael. That will be the next one. Bingo board, training camp will come up. All the cliches. Everyone's in the best shape of their lives. Chicken wings. But I may do a Pat Moran bingo board. That's what I need to do. I'm sick because like I'm going to do a Pat Moran, like pandering Pat. Pat's telling
I get called pandering Pat because of you. I probably get called on Twitter pandering Pat 2 to 3 times minimum by people I don't even know, who obviously listen to the show, but I don't know who they are. 2 to 3 times per week minimum, I get called pandering Pat.
Good. You should be calling more than that. But yeah, I mean, we're right around. What month are we in? April. Okay, football. God,
at the end of April.
5 fucking months. Jesus Christ.
You got the big next thing for football. Well, there will be some free agency that happens now, because what happens is teams start cutting veterans after the draft. Players who weren't signed before the draft. Like I heard Rasul Douglas is talking to Miami today, Sunday. So maybe Rasul signs with
Let me ask you this. Would you want Amari Cooper to come back?
Oh, God. You know what? That's a burning question, because that's what people are talking about a lot. I don't know, because here's the thing. Doesn't your 5th wide receiver have to be able to play special teams?
You and the special teams. Fucking enough with the special fucking teams. I'm just so sick and tired of it. Get your best guys on the field. I'll just say this about Amari. There has been a little bit of like, I don't want to say a 180, or maybe around that, but like when the guy got here, he had that great opening game, got hurt, and then like the consensus was he's opening things up for everyone, even though his numbers are bad. You said it. I kept saying like, when is his numbers going to go up? Because this is getting a little bit old. And then all of a sudden, by like the end of the playoffs, it was like, oh, he's done. He's shelved. And it went from, oh, he's opening up for everyone to fuck him. He's gets out of here. So it's like, who, if he's the guy that opens things up for everyone, and maybe he was nursing an injury, blah blah blah. Yeah, why don't you fucking sign him? I don't give a shit about the fifth guy being the special teams ace. You're in the fucking special teams. I get it.
How to play special teams, bro?
But dude, like, who can play special teams? Keon Coleman can play special teams.
You have five receivers with none of them playing special teams.
Oh my god, who gives a shit? Just kick the fucking ball out of bounds.
If you force me to take special teams off the table, would I like Amari Cooper back? Yes. Here's the reason. Number one, he's proven, even though last year it didn't work out. So, and plus he also came midseason. Maybe having a full off season, a summer with the Bills, he could help. I don't think he would be all that much more than what he was, though. I don't think you're going to see him have 1,100 yards if he were to sign with the Bills. But to your point, a weapon. Here's the problem with the Bills receivers without signing another guy. You got 4, and they're okay. You can even say they're good. They're fine. They're good. Whether they're mid or not, whether you consider them mid, above average, good. Whatever you want to consider them, that's not my point, Joe. Here's the thing. If any of them get hurt, and somebody's going to get hurt, one of those 4 guys go down, then what? Is Jalen Virgil now your 4th receiver? Is
Patrick.
The other guy? Is KJ Hamler your 4th receiver? Is Tyrell Shavers your 4th receiver? No, they shouldn't be. So you do need to add another receiver. Amari Cooper knows the system. Josh likes him. He did make a couple nice plays. I just don't think he was targeted enough either. You know what I mean? He's capable of doing more. I don't think he's an 1,100 yard per year receiver anymore, but I also think he's capable of being more than what he was with the Bills last year.
You also have to consider they're not going to have as many 4 wide receiver sets on the field. They're going to do 2 tight end, I think. Hey, they drafted a tight end who's like Lee Smith, better than him, so they can run the ball 2,000 times this year and have like the running back by committee that you've dreamed of. So, I mean, so you can get into like the whole, who's going to be their 4th and 5th wide receiver.
I forgot about they signed Laviska Shenault, who's destined to me.
Who the fuck is Shenault?
He was a former 2nd round pick. He was like Chase Claypool. He was good for his rookie year and a year after that, and then he just kind of shit, man. But anyway, this is like a cologne. If Cooper had a full off season last year with Josh, it would have had better numbers. Nobody that is traded for a receiver to trade deadline has really worked out historically. I don't know about historically, but
Cooper actually worked out for Dallas. They actually traded for him when he went from the Raiders to Dallas. He was great midway through the season. He really helped them out. But yes, normally it does take a little time. I mean, it's very cliche, but
I wouldn't be surprised if they do resign him. By the way, I have not heard Amari Cooper linked to anybody. Give him an incentive-laden deal.
What about Keenan Allen? How about him? He's a bigger star. No.
Nah. I like Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's a little more of a field stretcher at this point of his career.
I would trade Cook for like
what? Don't hold on. This late in the show, you're going to go there now at this point.
Yeah, I would trade Cook for like a 2nd wide receiver if some idiot was dumb enough to give them a wide receiver. Because you value running backs, I don't. You value the 17 defensive line rotation, I don't. I would trade Cook for a fucking 2nd wide receiver right now. Someone give me an example.
James Cook.
I like James Cook. Yeah, you're right. They're not going to, but
all right, let's put a wrap on this one.
Thank God.
I feel like I've tortured you enough. Thank you in the chat. Again, I know most people listen, but a lot of people are watching.
Look, I'm telling you this before you say goodbye. To the chat, thank you. As Pat was about to say that, but screw him. I'm taking over there. We will definitely have a show where we're gonna just have your comments featured the whole time. That's going to happen sooner or later. We have a nice little click here. It's much better than talking about the OTAs, which Pat can't wait to talk about, and I don't. So we're going to one day talk about it. Marissa Tomei subjects and things like that. We're going to let the chat dictate us what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, Mark's complaining. Mark just said that Pat missed a ton of great comments.
Yeah, you did.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I pulled up as many as I could, and I'm also trying to focus on a lot of other things beyond just the live chat. But if you are chatting, it does show up in the chat replay. So everybody who watches the show later on.
No, they want us to read their comments. It's not about the other dorks seeing it online.
A lot of these comments aren't even questions towards us. A lot of these are guys fighting back and forth with each other, which actually is pretty entertaining to see. Almost every week, there's a couple of guys who just go back and forth with each other. We need Colleen. We miss Colleen in the live chat.
Yeah, she does.
Hasn't been around lately.
It's all good.
But anyway, I appreciate everybody. A very active chat here tonight on Sunday, and I think everybody's got a little bit of Bills and NFL draft fatigue at this point between the weeks of speculation and the mock drafts, and then the draft itself. It's time. Pat Moran for senator. And
oh God, no. He'll have wings. He'll make sure all the kids are fed chicken wings at the fucking schools, and all good.
All right, guys. Oh, hold on. Bridget Mahomes versus Marissa Tomei.
Bridget Nielsen. I never was into Bridget Nielsen from back. I know you probably were because you love Rocky.
And wasn't she in Cobra too? I believe she was in.
She Cobra. Was. That's when your boy Rocky was out of his mind. Like he's like, I gotta hook my brother up, my fiance up.
How big was he in the 80s though, Sylvester Stallone? Between the Rockies, the Rambos, Cobra.
Who would you pick? Who would you pick, Rocky or Arnold? Or not Rocky, Sylvester or Arnold? Who would you pick?
Oh, Rocky. So Sylvester, easy.
That's fucking terrible.
I never. You like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh, Arnold's the movies Arnold has are way better than fucking Sly has. You're gonna pick You're gonna pick Cobra over Commando. You're gonna pick fucking. I can tell you the great look. The Rockies, great. The first two are great. The second and after that, it's kind of for me. I know you love the third one. It's fine. Fourth is fucking propaganda. No, Arnold did Arnold. Yeah.
The fourth you called Rocky IV propaganda?
Yeah, it's propaganda. It's stupid. Come on. It's a comedy at the end of the day. Terminator is its own. Patrick Conte just said that. Yes, exactly. Predator's legit. Terminator is legit. Total Recall's awesome. The Running Man, fucking those kill all the Sly movies.
Those just weren't my kind of movies, man.
What do you mean you weren't your type of movies?
What was the movie he was in with Danny DeVito? I like that one.
Oh, Twins. Yeah, his comedies like Stopping My Mom Would Shoot was a bomb. That was terrible. But yeah, he did Twins. He did Kindergarten Cop. Like it's Arnold. Arnold crushes Sly. It's not even close. Not even close.
I don't like that you called Rocky IV propaganda.
It's propaganda. It's more hilarious than anything. You watch it. If I could choose, it's one of those just goofy movies that you laugh at. If you would have, here's the thing.
It didn't age well. I'll say that in terms of modernization. But it's
just a corny 80s movie.
I think Rocky IV came out in 86. It was us.
No, 84, Rocky IV. Or Rocky IV was like 84, I think. It was
I think it was a little bit later than that.
Maybe. I don't know.
It was 86. Maybe it was 84. I don't know. Well, regardless, it was the mid-80s. And it was the USA versus Russia during the Cold War. Greatest fucking soundtrack of any movie, too. Rocky
it's IV, a corny sound. But if you were to have people watch who were 21 today, if I go, here's Total Recall, here's Terminator 2, here's Running Man, here's Predator, and going against them is going to be Rocky IV, fucking Stopping My Mom Will Shoot, Cobra, and I did like the only ones I liked of Rock. The only thing I liked about Stallone, we got to get the hell out of here. The only thing I liked about Stallone's movies is outside the Rocky. I like Tango and Cash. Terry Hatcher was great in that movie. Shout out to her. Kurt Russell was great too. Cliffhanger was good. That was a good movie with Stallone. But come on, The Specialist sucked. The fucking Assassin sucked. Like once he was Brutus Beefcake when it's all said and done. And here's my thing. As Rocky or as Brutus the Barber Beefcake, they were great. But if you got them out when Brutus Beefcake was the disciple or the fucking booty man or the other fucking things, he was terrible. Once Sly got out of Rocky, Rambo was good, but that's it.
I will admit that some movies that were really good in the 80s don't age well, but and Rocky IV, probably Rocky III as well, are two of them that they don't really age well, but they did feel. I remember because I was my come up years, my early teen years. It was really cool at the time, man. Fuck that shit. Rocky IV was the bomb, dude.
Rocky IV is one of those comic. It's more like I'm laughing at it, how stupid it is.
I'm an 80s music guy too. And again, that soundtrack for me was just the best ever. If you look at my studio here, you can actually see it. I always have an album up, and this week it's Michael Jackson's Thriller, greatest album, by the way, of all fucking time. But anyway, folks, get ready for a lot of this kind of talk too, by the way. At least we saved it for the end, but we ain't gonna be fucking around. If you like this podcast and you like Joe and I, at least, I do 5 shows a week. Other ones will be more straightforward sports talk, but get ready for a lot of this. We'll talk some Bills or some Sabres or some shit, but we just start riffing, and who the fuck knows where it goes. But that's what we kind of do from now through training camp anyway, because it's gonna be some.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the Bills after this week. I'm done. I'm not talking about it. I'm fucking. Jason M is going to take over in the chat. I'm
there's people who volunteered. Like Joe said, though, seriously, thank you very much to everybody in the live chat. Thank you everyone who's going to be watching or listening to this later on. It does it, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate you, man. I know you're tired. Long drive, long week. Long drive, long week for you. I will be back with a brand new episode. What is this next episode on Tuesday? I don't know who. Oh, Chris Ostrander is going to join me. 2 in the box. We'll talk some Bills, but we're also going to start talking Sabres. Matt Warren joins me after that. And then again, Wednesday, live from Imperial. I am very, very excited about this. Tommy Parzamiso, the 16-year-old kid who was just there announcing the Bills' first round pick. He's going to be joining me live from Imperial. Talk to you guys soon.